Abhinavji, there's also one other thing. I'm going back to the farm protests and the politics and the political economy around it, and that is the intervention that we've seen just now, which is of the judiciary. Now, and this is not something that is has been done in isolation. We have seen time and time again in many examples where the judiciary really has overstepped. And so I wanted to understand from you, do you think this is kind of an example of judicial overreach, and or more generally, what is this problem of judicial overreach that we are seeing in recent times?
Well, what has judiciary done in the case of farms laws? It has basically put them on hold. I think this is not simply the case of judicial overreach. I think that it's undermining of democracy itself, right? So maybe they are not seeing it this way, but this is how I'm seeing it. In the long run, this will undermine the democracy itself, because what you have done, you have just legitimized the street veto on the parliament, right? So India is a parliamentary democracy. Laws are not made by the people. Laws are made by the parliamentarians, right? Democracy in India is not the rule of the people, in the sense that we do not have the direct democracy. A direct democracy will become a mobocracy. That is why you have a mediated democracy, that you, in elections, you elect your representatives, they sit in the parliament, and then they make law, and it is their power alone. It's not the power of the people on the street to make the laws. And what we're seeing of late, since the last year at least, since the NTCA protest, there's an attempt to subvert the parliamentary democracy by saying that what the parliament is doing is unacceptable, and we on the street, we demand what should be done and what cannot be done. Now that's a very dangerous path, because once that happens, tomorrow, what if 100,000 people sit in Delhi outside Supreme Court saying that implement caste reservation in Supreme Court, and that's a demand. That's a long-standing demand of the OBC groups and the Dalits groups, that you implement reservations in the higher judiciary, because higher judiciary is so unrepresentative, right? Uh, what will Supreme Court do then? I mean, they in the 70s they came up with this doctrine of basic structure of the constitution. It seems now that they have come up with a new doctrine of herd sentiments, right? That, oh, the farmers are hurt, they are not happy with the law, so we are going to put the law on hold. I'm simply pointing out the wider dynamics, which perhaps the judiciary is not thinking through, or maybe it is, I don't know. Uh, Other thing is that this judicial intervention is problematic, because it's not the job of the Supreme Court to make laws. It should only give judgment on the fact that whether the law is constitutional or not, or was due process followed or not. But what we are seeing is that through the PIL routes or through the judicial activism, the judiciary is increasingly encroaching upon the functions of executive and the parliament. Now, some people say, well, the parliament is not doing its work, so judiciary has to do its work. But I say there are tens of millions of cases pending in judiciary. Should parliament take over that job? I mean, that would be unacceptable. That would be a constitutional crisis. But see, judiciary in India is, I think, problematic in my opinion, because you have a judiciary which appoints its own members, which fixes the terms of services by itself, which also fixes salaries and everything by itself, which cannot be questioned because there's a contempt of court, you know, which and judges are appointed by itself. I mean, where do you see that in the world? I don't see that in America or in any mature democracy. In America, the judges don't appoint judges. Is the they're nominated by the president, if I'm not wrong, and then there's a confirmation hearing in the Parliament of America. So I think the judiciary in India is very opaque, is unrepresentative, and it lacks democratic popular mandate to do the kind of things it is doing. So judiciary wants to do these things. I say, let us have direct elections to the judiciary. Let judges be elected by direct election, and then they can make laws. I don't mind it. You should have a democratic mandate, because if you don't have it, what is happening? The judiciary is exposing itself to the public too much by interfering into these things. So they did something in the reservation rosters last year. They did something with the Jallikattu, last a few years back. They did something with the Diwali, the ban the crackers and all those things. Yeah, you are exposing yourself to the public, and then you have to And if you're getting into the matter of public policy, then you also have to bear the repercussions. There will be backlash against you, and we're seeing that is happening in India. The public, which never spoke against the judiciary a few years back, is now increasingly mocking judiciary, increasingly defying judiciary, increasingly, abusing judiciary. That is not good for judiciary itself, because if you are exposing to yourself too much to the public, then my goodness, one day you have to face the public anger, just like politicians face the public anger. But you are not a politician, you are judges. So judiciary is on a very dangerous trajectory, in my opinion, and something has to be done, because we don't want that kind of anarchy in this country.
Absolutely, Abhinavji. I think there is much room for introspection on various fronts, as you said, not just in terms of also improving the efficiency, because there's so much of pending cases, but also just in terms of the turf and the territory that we are seeing judicial interventions in. Thank you for sharing that.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Chitti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.